right now, as you watch this video. The United States government is going deeper into debt by approximately $100,000 every single second. Not per day, not per hour, per second. And before you click away thinking, okay, another debt video, I've heard this. I need you to stay with me, because what's happening right now is different from every other debt conversation you've seen. The rules have changed. The stakes have changed. And the people who understand what's coming next will be in a completely different position than those who don't. This isn't about Republicans or Democrats. This isn't about who you voted for. This is about mathematics. And mathematics doesn't care about your political opinion. So let's talk about what's actually happening, what it actually means for your life, your savings, your job, and your family, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. I subscribe. And I'll personally welcome you into the family. With that said, let's get started. Section 1. The number that should terrify everyone. America's national debt just crossed $34.6 trillion. Now, I know big numbers are hard to feel, so let me make it personal. If you were alive when Jesus Christ was born, and you spent $1 million every single day since then, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion yet. America owes 34 of those. But here's the part that doesn't make it into headlines. For the first time in U.S. history, America is now spending more money on interest payments than on national defense. Over $1.1 trillion a year, just to service the debt, not pay it down, not reduce it, just to keep the lights on financially. Think about that. More than the Pentagon. More than Social Security increases, more than any social program, just interest. And that number is going up, not down. That's when I want you to meet Maria. Maria Kowalski is 61 years old. She spent 28 years teaching third grade in Columbus, Ohio. She loved her job, loved her kids, and she did everything right. She saved. She stayed in the pension system. She planned her retirement down to the last detail. In 2022, she retired. She was proud. She was ready. By the end of 2023, her grocery bill had gone up $340 a month. Her electricity bill climbed 31%. Her insulin, which she needs for type 2 diabetes, jumped from $180 to $290 a month because her supplemental coverage changed. Her pension? Fixed. Her cost of living? Not fixed. Today, Maria works 4 shifts a week at a Kroger grocery store. Not because she wants to, but because she has to. And she told me something that stopped me cold. She said, I did everything they told me to do, and it still wasn't enough. Here's the thing, Maria's story isn't a fluke. According to a 2023 report by the Senior Citizens League, 47% of retired Americans say their retirement income has failed to keep up with inflation over the last 3 years. Nearly half. And what's fueling that inflation? That's connected directly to what we're talking about today. But there's a hidden danger that goes even deeper than rising prices, and almost no one is talking about it. Section 2, How We Got Here, the hidden timeline. Here's what they don't teach you in school. This crisis was an accident. It was built, decision by decision, over 25 years, by both parties. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Decision number 1, 2001, after the dot-com crash, President Bush pushed through $1.35 trillion in tax cuts. The logic? Stimulate the economy. The result? A revenue hole that never fully closed. Decision number 2, 2008, the financial crisis. The government had 2 choices. Let the banks fail or bail them out. They chose the bailout. $700 billion in TARP funds. And then the Federal Reserve did something almost no one understood at the time. They began buying trillions in assets to keep the economy alive. It worked, but the bill? Deferred. Decision number 3, 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Corporations got their rates slashed from 35% to 21%. The Congressional Budget Office projected this would add $1.9 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. Supporters said growth would cover it. It didn't, not even close. Decision number 4, 2020 and 2021. COVID hits. And in 18 months, the United States injected $5 trillion into the economy. Stimulus checks, PPP loans, enhanced unemployment, infrastructure spending. Some of it was necessary. Some of it wasn't, but all of it had to be borrowed. Decision number 5, 2022 to today. To fight the inflation caused partly by all that money printing, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates to a 23-year high, which means America is now paying premium interest on a debt mountain built at bargain basement rates. The compound interest bill has come due. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. None of this is left-wing or right-wing. George W. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, every single administration added to the pile because both parties discovered the same secret. Borrowing feels painless until it doesn't. And right now, it's starting to not feel painless. But wait, it gets more complicated. Because what happens next doesn't stay inside America's borders. Section 3. The domino effect on your daily life. Let me show you the chain reaction. Because this is where it stops being abstract and starts being your kitchen table. The Congressional Budget Office, and this is from their 2024 long-term budget outlook. Projects that by 2034, the United States will spend $3 out of every $10 in tax revenue just on interest payments. Not education, not healthcare, not roads, not the military, just interest. So what does the government do when it can't pay its bills? It has 3 options. Option 1, raise taxes. Politically, almost impossible. Option 2, cut spending. Also politically, almost impossible. Every spending line has constituency. Option 3, print more money, technically called monetizing the debt. And this is the quiet option. The one that works until it doesn't. Because every dollar printed makes every dollar you already own slightly less valuable. When the dollar weakens, imports cost more. When imports cost more, everything costs more. Your groceries, your gas, your phone, your clothes. And the people who feel it hardest? People on fixed incomes. People in the working class. People like Maria. Now let me introduce you to James. James Whitfield owns a small landscaping company in Savannah, Georgia. Built it from nothing. Started with a second-hand truck and a borrowed lawnmower 17 years ago. By 2021, he had 8 employees and a waiting list of clients. In 2021, he took a $200,000 SBA loan to buy new equipment and a second truck. Interest rate, 3.5%. Monthly payment, manageable. In 2023, he had to refinance part of that debt. New rate, 8.5%. His monthly payment jumped by $900. Overnight, he let 2 employees go, then a third. Today, James runs his entire business alone, 70 hours a week in the Georgia heat, because he can't afford the help he needs, but also can't afford to lose the clients he has. I feel like I'm running as fast as I can, he told a local business journal, and the finish line keeps moving. Here's what James did that actually started working. He refinanced his remaining variable rate debt into a fixed rate product before rates could climb again. He trimmed his service offerings to focus on the highest margin work. And he started building a cash reserve equal to 4 months of operating costs, something he'd never bothered with during the easy money years. Small moves, but they gave him control in a system that feels out of control. And that matters, because the global picture is about to add a whole new layer of pressure. Section 4, the global contagion. Zoom out with me for a second, because this isn't just an American story. The World Bank's 2024 International Debt Report found that 60% of low-income countries are either already in debt distress or at high risk of falling into it. Developing nations spent a record $443.5 billion just servicing their external debts in 2023 alone. When poor countries can't pay their debts, they cut food subsidies, healthcare, education. People go hungry. People migrate. Political systems destabilize. And instability in today's connected world doesn't stay local. But here's the part that changes the entire equation for America specifically. For 50 years, the U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency. That means oil is priced in dollars. Global trade is settled in dollars. When countries need a safe haven, they buy dollars. This gave America an extraordinary privilege, the ability to borrow almost unlimited amounts without immediately destroying its own currency. That privilege is now being quietly, deliberately eroded. Saudi Arabia, China, Brazil, Russia, and several Gulf states have begun trading oil and commodities in currencies other than the dollar. China and France completed their first yuan-settled LNG trade in 2023. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, are actively discussing an alternative reserve currency framework. This is the first serious challenge to dollar dominance since 1974. And here's why that's not just geopolitics. It's your wallet. If the dollar loses even a portion of its reserve status, the U.S. loses its free pass for borrowing. Interest rates would rise further. The cost of everything imported, and America imports a lot, would jump sharply. And the inflation Maria and James are already fighting would intensify. We've seen this before. After World War II, Britain's pound sterling lost its reserve currency status. What followed was 3 decades of economic contraction, emergency IMF bailouts, and a standard of living that declined relative to the rest of the world. Britain recovered, but it took a generation. Now, before this gets too dark, let me show you something important. 3 countries have already faced debt spirals like this, and what they did will actually surprise you. Section 5. Solutions that actually worked. Let's talk about what's possible, because history isn't just a record of failures. Norway. In the 1990s, Norway made a radical decision. Instead of spending its oil revenues, it saved them in a sovereign wealth fund. Today, that fund is worth $1.7 trillion, the largest in the world. Every Norwegian citizen effectively has over $300,000 working for them in that fund. The government spends only the returns, not the principal. Norway has no net debt. In fact, it has net positive wealth. The lesson: resource wealth spent is gone. Resource wealth invested compounds forever. Canada in 1995. Canada was in crisis. Debt to GDP over 70%, credit rating under threat. The Wall Street Journal called it an honorary member of the Third World. The Liberal government under Jean Chrétien did the politically almost impossible. They cut federal spending by 20% in 2 years. They eliminated the deficit. By 2000, Canada had the strongest balance sheet in the G7. By 2008, when the financial crisis hit, Canada had the fiscal room to respond without breaking. The lesson: discipline is painful for 2 years. Debt crisis is painful for 20. New Zealand. In 1994, New Zealand passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act, a law requiring the government to publish long-term fiscal projections for every major policy and to maintain debt at prudent levels. Transparency became legally mandatory. Politicians couldn't hide the long-term costs of short-term decisions. It fundamentally changed the political incentives. The lesson: you can't fix what you won't measure honestly. Now, you can't personally restructure U.S. fiscal policy, but you can absolutely debt-proof your own life using the same principles these countries used. Here's your personal action ladder. Step 1. Build a cash emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. Not invested. Liquid. Cash. Because the first victim of economic instability is liquidity. Step 2. Look at I-bonds and TIPS, Treasury inflation-protected securities. These are government bonds that adjust with inflation. Not glamorous, but genuinely useful as a hedge. Step 3. Consider a modest allocation, 5 to 10%, of your portfolio in hard assets. Gold, commodities, real estate. Things that hold value when paper currency weakens. Step 4. Aggressively pay down variable rate debt. In a rising rate environment, variable debt is a ticking clock. And Maria? Remember Maria from Ohio? After her wake-up call in 2023, she started a private tutoring business. 3 evenings a week for students. It adds $800 a month. She shifted 15% of her liquid savings into tips. She's not rich. She's not perfectly safe. But she's less fragile than she was. And that feeling of having some control, she says, changed everything. I stopped feeling like a victim of something I couldn't see, she said. I started feeling like someone making decisions. But here's the part I've been saving. Because there's one thing the government is quietly facing right now, a trap with no clean exit that can make everything we've discussed happen faster than anyone expects. Section 6, the trap with no exit. The Federal Reserve is caught in a dilemma that keeps economists up at night. If they cut interest rates to relieve pressure on borrowers like James, to stimulate growth, inflation comes back. We saw what happened in the 1970s when the Fed moved too soon. Inflation roared back worse than before. If they keep rates high, to fight inflation, the government's interest payments on that $34.6 trillion keep climbing. The debt spiral tightens. Growth slows. Unemployment could rise. And if they sell the $7.4 trillion in assets on the Fed's own balance sheet to normalize monetary policy, they risk flooding the bond market and potentially triggering a credit freeze. Every door has a wall behind it. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the world's largest hedge funds, and someone who has studied debt cycles across centuries, said in 2024 that the United States is in a debt cycle that historically resolves in one of three ways: restructuring, monetization, or conflict. Restructuring means accepting pain now. Cuts, defaults, renegotiation. Monetization means printing money, inflating your way out, destroying savings. Conflict. Historically, countries under extreme fiscal stress turn outward. That's not a prediction. It's a pattern. But here's what matters, and I mean this. America has been here before. In 1946, after World War II, the U.S. debt to GDP ratio hit 119%, higher than it is today. And America didn't collapse. It grew. Manufacturing boomed. The baby boom created a new consumer generation. The GI Bill built the middle class. Innovation exploded. The U.S. grew its way out over 30 years. The question that no economist can answer with certainty is this: is that path still available? The world is not the same. There are competing reserve currencies now. Artificial intelligence is disrupting the labor market. The manufacturing base has been hollowed out. Demographics are inverted. More retirees, fewer workers. Climate costs are rising. Geopolitical alliances are shifting. Maybe America innovates its way to another golden era. It's happened before. Or maybe this time, the math wins. Here's where I leave you, and I want you to actually think about this. America has escaped debt crises before, but it did so in a world with no serious rivals to the dollar. No AI replacing millions of workers. No $1.1 trillion annual interest bill. No fracturing global order. The people who came out ahead during Britain's decline weren't the ones who panicked. And they weren't the ones who pretended nothing was wrong either. They were the ones who saw it clearly, planned honestly, and acted early. Maria saw it and adapted. James saw it and stabilized. You're watching this video, which means you're already ahead of most people. So here's what I genuinely want to know from you. Do you think America can grow its way out of this, like it did after World War II? Or has something fundamentally changed that makes this time different? And more personally, what are you actually doing to protect yourself and your family? Because the conversation happening in the comments below this video right now, from real people sharing real strategies, might be the most valuable thing you find today. Not from a politician, not from a bank, from people who are in this with you. Drop your answer. I read every single one. And if this video helped you see something you didn't see before, share it with one person who needs to understand what's coming, not to scare them, to prepare them. Because the best time to understand a spiral is before you're inside it.